With the Arizona Cardinals coming to town Sunday, what do the numbers say about a team with 10 losses that could possibly pose a threat to Houston's win streak and possible playoff chances?
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Batter Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around, the best fans in the whole National Football League right here in Texas or around the United States. You guys are the best. Thank you for making the Locked On Texan podcast your first listen of the day and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, now the number one sports podcast network in the nation. Got a fun show for you guys. Hey, listen, even if Houston makes the playoffs, even if Houston wins the division, even if Houston makes a deep playoff run, in my opinion, Nick Caserio's fate should still be sealed. Why? Well, I'll back that up when I end off today's show. Also, going into Sunday's game, what's something you want to see versus the Cards, right? We've seen a lot of historic defensive performances from Houston this year, especially during this 5-game win streak. However, on the other side of the ball, offensively, there's some things I would like to see. So stick around for that. Opening up today's show, looking inside of the numbers for some of the things that the Arizona Cardinals do well and how Houston can avoid a loss. And this is where I'm going to start today's show. I understand this is a team that doesn't run the ball well, right? And the numbers per game show that. However, in spots, Arizona has run the ball well. And also, let's take a look at it. We'll take a look at how they go about with their passing offense. I do want to add the Cards were very successful versus Seattle on the ground. 5.6 yards per carry, 129 yards total. And so they've been without their starting running backs for a while now. They've had to kind of plug and play guys. That has forced Arizona to not run the ball as impactful and effective as they have. But just throwing that out there. And also for the year, the Cards have a 57% third down rushing conversion rate. Third down numbers include 6.5 yards per carry, 3 TDs, 25 first downs, with a positive and impressive 4.9 yards after the contact per rush on third down. So, that being said, for Houston, winning early in the downs, because this offense is so based on passing the ball right now, especially with Jacoby Brissett, who has really elevated this passing offense for Arizona. Trey McBride has been balling at tight end. Michael Wilson, the kid out of Stanford, he's been balling. He's been balling for Arizona this year. Maserati Marv, who's been in and out due to injury, he's had some decent moments. But passing offense is expected to happen. The thing is, once they get into those third and shorts this year, they've been kind of able to lean on their run a little bit to kind of take pressure off that passing offense. So obviously for Houston, it's important to kind of force them into third and long situations. Plus, this is why I think it's important to see Houston's offense create some separation, and I'll talk about that more, because their offense in the fourth has produced this year 9 TDs to 1 interception. Jacoby Brissett has been really good in the fourth quarter, a 102 passer rating, 43 first downs this year in the fourth quarter, but they are more susceptible to allowing more sacks between the second and fourth quarter, where the Arizona Cardinals have the most passing attempts. They've allowed a combined 28 sacks, and they ain't played Houston yet. They playing Houston without Paris Johnson at their left tackle position. And that offensive line is also a little bit banged up for them this year. So when I look at some of the things that could possibly hurt Houston, it's just not winning on the first and second downs defensively, right? The Cardinals offense can be somewhat predictable, especially without the running backs. James Conner not playing, right? They've had to kind of lean on other guys here and there. Conner has been out, I think, since week 2. So with the Cardinals offense being more so based in, hey, Jacoby, just go out there and air it out 40 to 45 times. That has allowed for teams to kind of let the Arizona Cardinals stick around in some of these games. They have had, and not many as of late, but they've had 9 one-score games this year. Now, obviously, they're going up against teams that have players on the field that can make plays at the end of games or throughout the game, or maybe we'll see Arizona just maybe make a comeback push in the fourth quarter, right? 2 wins in those 9 one-score games. So this is a team that the numbers say 3-10 on the year. The records say 3-10 on the year. The numbers say if you allow this team, they'll either stick around, make the game competitive late. Can Houston afford a loss? No, they cannot. No team in the AFC has done Houston any favors, and I don't see that happening Sunday. This is absolutely a game the Houston Texans need to win. And for the Cards defense, the defense is allowing a 60% red zone conversion rate. This is what Texan fans should love. Cards defense is also allowing 16 TDs in the red zone. So it's absolutely time to feast CJ Stroud and Nick Caserio, which is where I'm going to lead to next. I wholeheartedly believe the defense is going to have one of those moments again on Sunday where we leave out of that game. I'm going to leave out of NRG Stadium because I'll be there. And I want to say such and such player, such and such player, such and such player. Will Anderson, Kamari Lassiter, Jalen Petrie had a phenomenal game. Just throwing those 3 names out there. But I think we should all feel somewhat optimistic on what this possible game could look like offensively. 60% red zone conversion rate. That is what the Cardinals defense is allowing. So if Houston gets down there 5 times, they should be scoring 3 touchdowns. They should walk away with 27 points. And I think that would be a good thing. So let's talk about that when I return back. More Locked On Texans talk on the way. Guys, it's 2025, almost 2026, and those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor are over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and Zocdoc makes that easier than ever because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's actually about getting things checked out when something feels off. Using Zocdoc makes scheduling easier. Search for in-network doctors and book right in the appointment. Real appointment times are listed, including same-day visits. So stop putting off your doctor's appointment. Don't do that. Do not do that. Get the care you need. Go to Zocdoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That is Zocdoc.com/LockedOnNFL, Zocdoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Plus, car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with CarGurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars you want. Because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And CarGurus makes the process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else so you can shop the way you want. You'll love being able to filter by everything: mileage, trim, features, so you're only seeing the cars that actually fit what you need and what you want. Having verified dealerships and upfront prices make the whole thing feel transparent and what we love, stress-free. CarGurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. Shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell, your next car today at CarGurus.com. That is CarGurus.com. CarGurus.com. Getting back to what do we want to see on Sunday versus the Arizona Cardinals? Well, offensively, I just need to see somewhat of an explosion, right? The last game that made me sit back and say, oh, this team offensively is finding a groove for majority of the game, not a quarter, not a drive, because Nick Caserio has had a half. Nick Caserio has had a quarter. Nick Caserio has had a drive, whether it's been, him and Davis Mills or him and CJ Stroud. But the last game that I think put everything into perspective, on how this offense can operate at its full capacity, San Francisco. That was the game that I thought everything turned around for Houston offensively. Unfortunately, the next game, CJ Stroud gets hurt. That was still a winnable game. If they were able to have a good red zone offense and going up against the Arizona Cardinals, they'll have their chances. They will have their shot. So I wholeheartedly believe, again, the defense is going to take care of their job. I don't see Arizona having moments where offensively they're just controlling the game for a period of time. They may have a drive. They'll find a way to score points. This is the NFL. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. And with that being said, I think it's extremely unfair week in, week out to ask the defense to save the team, to play hero ball, which is what they've been doing during this 5-game win streak. Now, you can ask the defense that when you take on Kansas City, Buffalo, and Indy. You can ask the defense to do that. Why? Because during that stretch of games, those are, at least supported by the numbers, some of the best offenses in the NFL, right? And so, yeah, your defense needs to shut the offense down. But the Texans offense is going up against an Arizona Cardinals defense that just isn't great. They are allowing 27 points per game. How do you get to that? Well, a 60% red zone conversion rate. So if teams are getting down there 5 times, they're walking away with 3 touchdowns. They may be walking away with 2 field goals, 27 points per game. This is what I need to see from Houston. The comment section, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on X, and you guys have been killing it on Facebook, by the way. So shout out to all the Locked On Texas fans over on Facebook. You guys have made my day. You don't understand how much you made my day. So some of y'all may agree, some of y'all may disagree, but the fact of the matter is, for Houston to make a real run at the Super Bowl, I'm saying it now because I'm not betting against DeMeco Ryans and his defense. And I've been around for a long time now, 33 years, but I've been around watching football since 2000. I've seen the Baltimore Ravens defense win a Super Bowl with that defense. I've seen Tampa do it. I've seen the early Tom Brady years. I've seen years later Russell Wilson. I've seen the second go around in Denver with Peyton Manning where he had the noodle arm, right? And they had the no-fly zone with Chris Ward and Aqib Talib and that defense and Von Miller up front. I've seen it all. The defense can actually get it done. What I want to challenge for Houston is the offense just play 25 to 30% better. The AFC right now is so anybody can get it. Houston fits right into that mix. They have an opportunity, a real shot to make some noise, but going up against teams like Denver, who they, lost to, New England this go around, even Jacksonville, who I think is finding a groove. I'm going to be fair about it. They're finding the groove. They're going to need more from their offense. And so that being said, I would like to see CJ Stroud, and I'm going to give numbers. I would like to see a 2-touchdown, 280-yard day from CJ Stroud. Or I would like to see just an extremely efficient red zone. So the numbers say 60% for the Arizona Cardinals defense allowed in the red zone. Then what I would like to see is Houston match that. Don't play under the numbers. The numbers say this team in Arizona has allowed 16 touchdowns in the red zone. I would like to see Houston not be a reason that team won't allow 19 walking out of NRG Stadium on Sunday. I would like to see what Woody Marks can do. I know his status is up in the air. Thursday, he was limited at practice. Wednesday, did not practice. Back-to-back days for Nick Chubb dealing with that rib injury. He didn't practice. Houston just signed Cody Schrader to their roster off the Chargers practice squad. So I'm curious to see how the Houston Texans will go about running the ball against a Russian defense that is god awful, right? And again, we know this by the eye test, and the numbers support it. When Houston can run the ball, that has allowed for them to be able to score more points. That has allowed for the play action to thrive a little bit more. So Nick Haley has his job cut out for him. But if it's not an over 100-yard game on the ground, which is totally fair, it's a per pop game. Per pop, can the Houston Texans average a good enough yards per carry that could at least fool the defense into playing down? And then boom, from there, we can get CJ Stroud on the play action boot, where he's been very good this year. Number two, I want to see. We've been waiting on it. We've had moments here and there. I thought the Buffalo game, the numbers didn't support it, but I thought this was probably his best game. I want to see a Jayden Higgins game. Nico Collins is, about 40 yards away from his third 1,000-yard season in Houston in a row. Shout out to Nico, right? 4 TDs on the year. Nico's going to get his, but I think it's important to see Jayden Higgins continue to grow as a player for the Houston Texans. And here's the thing. Some of these players are going to have to raise their level of play when the playoffs get here. CJ Stroud being one of them. Nico Collins obviously being the head man in that group, who I think has done a good job in being the leader in that wide receiver room this year. The first year he is the vet in the room, right? But Jayden Higgins is one of those guys. Christian Kirk is one of those guys. His former team, Arizona, coming to town. It's not like it was in Jacksonville where they just traded him for a 7th-round pick. He got to Jacksonville and made a name for himself in the NFL. But this could be a moment where Kirk has a decent moment. And I'm not looking for maybe yards, or I may not be looking for specifically touchdowns, but for Christian Kirk, can you impact this Houston offense by being a player that are sneakily getting first downs? When we end this game off on Sunday, it'll be great to see Christian Kirk. Oh, you know what? He had 4 first downs for Houston. Oh, you know what he had? He had about 35 to 40 yak yards for Houston. Just small things that will help Houston, get to the red zone, sustain these drives, right? If you sustain the drive, you get into the red zone, you're winning the time of possession, and obviously, what I've been saying, 60% in the red zone conversion rate from the Cardinals defense. You got to be able to punch it in. Punch it in. Sometimes shooters need to see the ball go into the goal. Sometimes offenses just need to see the ball get punched in at the goal line, whether it's by pass or whether it's by run. So that's what I'm looking forward to on Sunday. I just want to see Houston's offense build on the San Fran game. Build on some of the small things that they've done to create leads for themselves, to score points. But I want to see it for 4 quarters. I don't think that's too much to ask for. And again, if Houston's offense can raise its level of play, if they can get close to playing at the same intensity and physicality and speed of the defense, and I'm not saying getting to their level, just get closer to it. Just raise it enough. Then I think when people look at Super Bowl contenders, if Houston is scoring 3 touchdowns a game, the conversation around who is the best team currently in the AFC might change. And if it doesn't change because of where we are in week 14, week 15 in the NFL, then the conversation on when the playoffs start, who teams really want to avoid, it'll absolutely be the Houston Texans. And it's like that right now. But the whispers are Well, you can't trust the offense. You can't trust the offense. The fact of the matter is, Houston has 4 games left starting Sunday to change that narrative. Will they? I think Sunday is a good start for them. And then they take on the Raiders. That's also another good place for that offense to catch fire, build some rhythm and momentum going into the playoffs, taking on the Chargers, taking on the Colts, and then going into the playoffs. Now, with all that being said, there's a general manager here in Houston that many feel should have the support to come back next year to finish off his contract. On the other hand, feels like, hey, Nick Caserio has done some good things for Houston, but some of his sheer negligence hurt Houston this year. And if it wasn't for D'Amico Ryans being the head coach, then we wouldn't be having these conversations about a now 8-5 team who started off 0-3 because of sheer negligence. So when we return back, Nick Caserio's fate in Houston should be stick around. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports. Bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're always making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on the daily fantasy action. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stat projections, lock in your lineups, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. PrizePicks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stacks, fantasy scores, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. So if you took the more on Jalen Hurts turnovers Monday night, you probably won you some money. I wish I did. Download the PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineup after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks is good to be right. Texan fans, thank you for making the Locked On Texans podcast your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Texans with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Make sure you visit LockedOnTexans.supercast.com. Again, that's LockedOnTexans.supercast.com. If you are a true diehard Locked On Texan fan altogether, the Everyday All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. So again, head to LockedOnTexansSupercast.com to join the Everydayer Club and also unlock all access. You can find the link in the show notes. As we continue talking Texans on today's show, is it time for Houston Texans fans to look at the fate of Nick Caserio? Well, here's some things that took place this year. Cam Robinson, paid by Houston, no longer in Houston. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, released him, nothing in return. He's balling in Chicago, paid by Houston. Nothing in return for Dameon Pierce. Nick Neiman, paid by Houston. Mishandled the dig situations. He would be great here in Houston. Signed Laken Tomlinson. He still proved to be one of the worst guards. Waived by Houston, paid by Houston. Traded for Christian Kirk. He hasn't been much of any help this year for Houston. Never fully assessed and addressed the running back room with everything that was going on with Joe Mixon. And that has put, the fire the fire under Nick Chubb to return back to his form. Chubb has been pretty good this year, but he's clearly an RB2. We've seen Woody Marks out there, and then also I look at Woody Marks being a dynamic running back. You need to involve him in the receiving game just as much in the running game. And for weeks now, Houston hasn't done that outside against Kansas City, where he scored on a receiving touchdown. But we all understand that this running back room lacks what it needs to be truly successful. If you remove CJ Stroud's rushing yards, I think this running back room or the rushing totals for Houston altogether would be under 3 yards per carry. Marks has not been a good runner in terms of yards per carry. What he has been this year is a good pass blocker. What he has been this year when he's gotten the opportunity to do so is a good receiving threat out of the backfield. But running, which he's been limited to as of late, he hasn't given Houston a lot of good yards per carry on the ground. So that said, I've had an issue with how they, handled the Joe Mixon situation, along with other things. And when we look at where majority of these issues that I just listed off come from, offensive side of the ball, what has hurt Houston this year, the offensive side of the ball. Nick Casario's fate, I think, should not be tied to the success of this team this year. I may be in the minority saying that, honestly. But when I look at how Houston got over that 0-3 hump, what happened? The defense just took it up another notch. And they already were playing good football before they took it up another notch. Matthew Stafford has had an MVP type of year. He may very well win MVP. But when they go through and look at some of his worst performances this year, the voters are going to circle Houston. I also look at Houston's defense winning games in the fourth quarter against Jacksonville, holding that team to 0 points, allowing for Davis Mills to make that miraculous comeback. I also look at, as of late, the amount of one-score games Houston has been in and how the defense has been out on the field on their last drive, and now they're making plays compared to when they didn't make the plays early in the year, i.e. the game against Tampa and maybe the game you look at against Denver. The fate of this team should only be tied to, in my opinion, the coaches and the players. I think because of the negligence of really bringing in true offensive line talent, hurt Houston a lot this year. And at times they still have issues with picking up twists and stunts, but they've improved. They've improved in a lot of areas. Not bringing in or putting your chips all on Marks, Chubb, and Dare was, I think, extremely unacceptable. But again, how has Houston been able to get to this point? It's been because of the D'Amico Ryans defense. No help to Nick Neiman. No help from Nick Neiman, who's no longer on the roster. No help from C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who played somewhat of a scapegoat early in the year before being released after 3 games. If Houston wants to reach that next level, I think they have to move forward and move on from Nick Caserio, who's done some good things. I'm not going to act like Nick Caserio has not done some good things. The ballsy move to trade up for Will Anderson, signing Danielle Hunter in the offseason last year, drafting Derek Stingley, finding Nico Collins, and also finding Davis Mills in the 3rd round, his first year here. But I think his inability to really put together a good, consistent, solid offensive line hurts. Holding on to players too long. I think Dameon Pierce, love him, and I wish him the success where he is right now in Kansas City, but Dameon Pierce should have been moved on from 2 years ago. Not really fully assessing the running back room. And you can make a case, at least for this year, wasting that additional 3rd round pick on Jalen Noel, who's been just kind of reserved as a punt returner, special teamer. Maybe that pick could have been designated to a more significant needed player, a player of more significant need, excuse me. So I'll put that on him as well. Will Houston move on from him? I'm not sure. I think the McNairs and Caserio has a good working relationship. Depending on how this season ends, that may play a factor, play a role into it. I mean, obviously, if they go win the Super Bowl, nobody needs to be fired because the ultimate goal was reached. And if we're being honest, maybe the AFC Championship game. Now, at that point, I still would look to move on. But it depends on how the game ends, right? So, Super Bowl, you don't fire nobody. You kind of got to run it back. AFC Championship game is still in consideration, but all of these decisions should be considered with how the offense performs. Because whether it was D'Amico's decision 100%, and I don't think any of these decisions are 100%, but whoever decided to bring on Nick Caserio, that still lies on somebody. You go with an inexperienced play caller in CJ Stroud's third year, in a crucial and critical year, and we saw how much that has kind of backfired on Houston a little bit, right? Again, how did they get to 8-5? The defense winning games, especially in the fourth quarter. You have an 8-sack game here. You limit Josh Allen to 0 touchdowns. You limit to Patrick Mahomes to 0 touchdowns. That all goes towards the defense. I just think that for Houston to reach that next level of success, they have to move on from a general manager who, in his job, in his role during his time period, has done some things that has helped Houston get to this point. But the offensive negligence year in and year out, the inability to build an offensive line, and kind of the smug remarks about the offensive line, the smugness regarding the running back room, the situation, all of those things has plagued Houston this year, and it could continue to plague Houston in the future, especially when I consider how they've had issues building a real, true offensive line. Shout out to Coach Popovich for getting the best out of his guys. Thank you for watching the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube. And wherever you listen to your podcast, follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Some Sports Guy, and also on Facebook as well under John Lee Hickman. Until next time, Texas fans around the nation, we got a game Sunday at home. Show up on time. Be there to turn up. And we can win this Houston win 6 games in a row. Peace.